Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going over my 8th overall draft strategy in a 12-team league for the 2022 fantasy football season. Inside today's video, we'll begin by talking about my general strategy from the 8th overall spot, some players that I'm looking to target in the early rounds, and maybe as well, we are also going to be discussing some guys that I'm looking for towards the end of drafts, and then we are going to be imploring the strategy that I talked about in an actual 12-team half PPR mock draft from the 8th overall spot, so you guys can see what I would actually be doing if I was put into a real draft from the 8th overall spot. And the mock draft also allows for a little bit of craziness to happen, some reaches to happen that we're not going to get when we're just discussing ADP of these players at the beginning of the video. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like down below. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my 8th overall draft pick strategy. So the first thing I want to be talking about here, like I said, we're going to go into the draft strategy early on in drafts, talk about some late round guys that I like, but I want to make something very clear, and I talked about this in every single draft strategy video. Please do not enter your draft thinking I have to take one running back in the first round, right? My first round pick has to be a running back, or my 5th round pick needs to be a tight end. My 4th round pick needs to be a quarterback. Do not put yourself into a box, because then say you're thinking, I need that 4th round quarterback. What happens if your league mates are a little bit crazy and all the good quarterbacks are already gone by the time you're up to pick in the 4th round at pick 41? What if that ends up happening? Then you're going to trap yourself into this box and reach for a quarterback that should not be taken there at all. You take a guy like Russell Wilson way too early because you got nervous. Don't trap yourself into any strategy going into the draft. Let the draft dictate your strategy. Now, obviously, you can still go in with the strategy, right? But you have to mold that strategy if things go completely opposite. So say at pick 8, I'm thinking I'm going into this draft, I want a wide receiver. And say in this league that you're in, this fake league that we're talking about now, you might have wanted Jamar Chase when you go into the draft. Now what happens if Cup, Jefferson, Chase are all gone? Do you believe that Adams is good enough to be taken at the 8th pick? I think Adams is pretty good, so I think that. But if you don't believe that, then you're going to reach. So don't be reaching. And another example of this would be, say in the first round, you want a running back, but for some reason, your league's running back happy. The first 7 picks are running backs. It would be a huge disadvantage to your own team if you draft the 8th running back there instead of just taking Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson or whoever you believe to be the best wide receiver in fantasy football this year. So again, just try not to go into the draft so stuck on one strategy. You got to make sure that you're able to move. Now, again, going into the draft, thinking you want to do something is perfectly fine, but just understand that you should mold your draft strategy during the draft, change things up if things aren't going the way of that draft strategy. So the draft would begin at pick number 1, obviously, and based upon current ADP of Yahoo, Fantrax, FFC, Sleeper, all averaged together, the first 7 picks before we'd be up at pick 8 are Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Cooper Kupp, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson. So at number 8 here, I think there are 2 players that you want to be selecting if your draft goes this way. I'm looking at either Jamar Chase or Najee Harris, and to me, those are the clear 2 picks. If you want to lock yourself into a elite tight end, you can do that and take Travis Kelce there. It's very unlikely Kelce falls to you at 17. At this point, based upon the trends I've been seeing in fantasy football drafts, it might also be unlikely that by pick 17, Mark Andrews is there. So if you want one of those top 2 tight ends, you shouldn't really take Andrews in the first round. So you'd have to take Kelce. If you want one of those elite tight ends, you have to take Kelce at 8 because there is a chance. There's no way Kelsey's going to be available at pick 17. There's also a chance Andrews could be gone. But for me, it's between Najee Harris and Jamar Chase. If you think that Jamar Chase is going to probably replicate what he did last year, I'd probably go with Chase. But I think Najee Harris is going to have a more improved season this year. I understand he did have that one game where he got 1,000,000 targets that heavily elevated his target total. But at the end of the day, I really do believe that this Steelers offense is going to be a bump up from what we saw last season with Big Ben. So I like Najee Harris a ton at pick 8. Then we'll sim all the way to pick 17, which would be Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Travis Kelce, DeAndre Swift, Javonte Williams, and then we are up at pick 17. So we got our running back in Najee Harris. You also could have went with Jamar Chase. So for this instance, for this simulation, again, we'll see what happens in the mock draft that we do. Right now, the best players available according to current ADP: CeeDee Lamb, Alvin Kamara, Deebo Samuel, Aaron Jones, Tyreek Hill, Josh Allen, Mark Andrews. In my opinion, right here, the pick is either Deebo Samuel if you want a wide receiver, because Deebo Samuel now inked that deal. There's no longer any worries about, oh, Deebo Samuel's going to just fucking sit out. There's no worries about that. So for me, it is either going to be Deebo Samuel or it is going to be Alvin Kamara, because I think that Alvin Kamara is not going to get suspended. If he does, then obviously you should not take Alvin Kamara in the second round if he's going to miss 6 games. But it seems like, since they keep pushing these court dates around, that the NFL is going to be forced to not suspend him this year and actually suspend him next season. So Alvin Kamara or Deebo Samuel. If you want to go double running back, that's fine. For me, I want to go ahead and secure an elite wide receiver that I think is top 5 upside. So we go Deebo Samuel. So after Deebo Samuel would be CeeDee Lamb, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, Tyreek Hill, Josh Allen, Mark Andrews, Saquon Barkley, Leonard Fournette, Mike Evans, A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, T. Higgins, David Montgomery, Ezekiel Elliott. I like David Montgomery, but in the third round, you are basically lighting your fucking money on fire. The fourth round here, our best available pick according to ADP would be Cam Akers. Also available is James Conner, Antonio Gibson, Kyle Pitts, Pat Mahomes, Justin Herbert the pervert, Deontay Johnson, Jalen Waddle, George Kittle. Now, personally, I'm not someone who is in love with Kyle Pitts. I see a lot of people that are super enamored with Kyle Pitts. Now, I definitely like him more than I did last season, because I thought he was a rookie last year, which he obviously was, and that maybe all this hype is pushing him too far. But in the third round this year, I'm perfectly fine taking him there. So I think for the terms of this simulation, we got Najee Harris, we got Deebo Samuel. Now we're going to get our elite tight end, a guy that could finish as the number 1 tight end. So I'm going with Kyle Pitts. And then we would be back up again. So after I go with Pitts, there would be Cam Akers, James Conner, Antonio Gibson, Kyle Pitts, or we already took Kyle Pitts, so, X him out. Pat Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Deontay Johnson, Jalen Waddle, George Kittle. We're back up again. Best players available: Josh Jacobs, Michael Pittman, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, Elijah Mitchell, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne. There seems to be a lot of negativity around Travis Etienne now because of the fact that James Robinson is back. I think James Robinson is probably going to be a humongous value late in drafts, but I'm also fine selecting Etienne in the 4th round, because the reason why you're drafting him is because of the receiving upside. I'm be fine taking him here, but for me, I'm just going to go with the best player available in my book, and that would either be Michael Pittman or that would be Mr. DJ Moore. I'm starting to get very bullish on DJ Moore. I really think DJ Moore is going to light it up with Baker Mayfield, so my pick would be DJ Moore. So that was the first 4 rounds here that we discussed in depth. But some of the late round guys that I'm looking at pick 128, which would be a bit deeper on in the draft, that would be our pick inside of round number 11. So once we get a little bit deeper in the draft, this is where I kind of consider the players to be quote unquote sleepers past 100 for me, or past pick 100. So Dameon Pierce, I love this year. There's a lot of positive reports coming out of camp for him. He's a huge target of mine late in drafts. I also really like targeting guys like Devontae Parker, guys like Kenny Golladay, who I think could be the number 1 wide receiver on their given team. And I also really like Hunter Henry if you're going for a late round tight end who goes around that range as well. So now we're going to go ahead and pivot into the actual mock draft. If you guys have ended up enjoying thus far, please make sure that you hit that like button as well as that subscribe button. If you are new, it really does help us out a ton. So now let's pull up the screen here so you guys can see our mock draft. So we're going to begin the draft here. The first pick of the draft is going to be Christian McCaffrey, followed by Jonathan Taylor, Dalvin Cook, Jamar Chase, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Justin Jefferson. So this draft went a little bit different than the draft we were talking about before that I imagined based upon ADP. So we're going to go wide receiver. I talked about how I like Najee Harris, but if Cooper Kupp's available, I'm going to take him. People seem to be a little bit scared about Cooper Kupp because, oh, Stafford's arm is not the best right now. He's dealing with some pain, blah, blah, blah. And I saw a video yesterday of Matt Stafford throwing a no-look fucking touchdown to Allen Robinson. And Sean McVay said his arm's fine. Like, there's really no need to panic, in my opinion. People just get so nervous when any negative news comes out. But again, it's early August. The season doesn't start for more than a month at this point. So I'm not nervous at all, unless I read that Stafford's like going to have surgery or something, then I would obviously be very nervous about Cooper Kupp. After Cooper Kupp comes Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, Travis Kelsey, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Swift, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, and Alvin Kamara. Based upon how the draft fell here, I'd definitely be fine double tapping the wide receiver position here, getting a guy like Debo, Tyreek, CD Lamb, looking at running back, Saquon Barkley, Ron Jones, Javonte Williams. The biggest issue with double tapping receivers in redraft leagues is that so many people in redraft leagues are keen on the running back position early. So by the time we're back at the 3-8, the running back position is potentially going to be very brutal. And if everyone is tapping on the running backs, then the receivers on the way back at the 3-8 could be still pretty solid and will be solid. So again, I still do think the receivers are fine at this pick. I think it's perfectly acceptable, but I'm going to go with running back. It really depends how you look at things. If you are confident that the Giants are going to be a better team this year, Daboll is going to help them out a ton. The offensive line is going to be better, and Saquon Barkley can stay healthy, then Barkley could be a top 5 running back. You'd also talk yourself into Aaron Jones. They are going to be using, obviously, A.J. Dillon behind him. He's not necessarily a workhorse, but he's going to be seeing a decent amount more dump-offs now without Devontae Adams. My pick would be Aaron Jones. You could have went Saquon Barkley there as well. I think that's perfectly acceptable. I also like Uncle Leonard Fournette as well. So after Aaron Jones comes CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Josh Allen, Leonard Fournette, Javonte Williams, Saquon Barkley, Mark Andrews, A.J. Brown, Debo Samuel, Mike Evans, Tee Higgins, Ezekiel Elliott, Kyle Pitts, Pat Mahomes. This is the latest I have seen Mark Andrews go in a lot of drafts that I've done, both in best ball as well as in terms of talking about a redraft league and the mock drafts that I've done. So I think Mark Andrews here at the 212 is a huge steal. If he does fall to that range, to me, he's just an auto-click draft because I think he could be the number 1 tight end in fantasy football. So we're back up on the board, 2 quarterbacks already off. I'm not taking a quarterback until the 5th round. Now, again, am I always taking one in the 5th round? No, but if the value falls to me, I'm fine taking one there. Looking at the board here, we already have Kupp and Aaron Jones. We can really do anything with this pick because we have Cooper Kupp and Aaron Jones, kind of a balanced start to the draft. Obviously, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver. I like James Conner a ton. I also like Keenan Allen. I like Deontay Johnson. I think I just want to get my running back because, again, I think there's a really big fall off coming. And Cam Akers, these reports that Sean McVay talking about where it's like, oh, this is we've got 2 guys that I want started. We got Akers, we got Henderson. That's fan-fucking-tastic news for Darrell Henderson, but scares me from Cam Akers. I think Akers is healthy, but I'm nervous. So I'm going to go with James Conner, who I understand people talk about, oh, he scored so many touchdowns last year. That's bound to not happen again. He's bound to score less touchdowns. But even if he scores less touchdowns, he should be seeing more volume this year, thus evening things out. So I think James Conner's perfectly acceptable pick in the 3rd round. After James Conner comes Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Justin Herbert, the pervert, Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, Travis Etienne, Darren Waller, and Michael Pittman Jr., who's very much a breakout candidate for 2022, unless you think he broke out last year. There's arguments to be made that he definitely did last year. So looking at the tight end room here, because again, I do like getting that elite tight end. I like Kittle. I just don't know what Kittle's going to do without that Jimmy G spot connection that he has. So I'm a little worried about George Kittle, if I'm being honest with you. Again, I think he's a fine pick, but I'm just not in love with it. Again, we're not going quarterback here. Still like the quarterbacks available. It's either running back or receiver for me. David Montgomery, Breece Hall. I'm kind of just done with running back now. I got my 2 guys. I'm just going to hammer in on these high upside wide receivers that I like. People are really kind of dragging Deontay Johnson's name through the dirt. For some reason, they forgot how fucking good he was. He just inked a new deal. I understand kissing titties Mitchell Trubisky as well as Kenny Pickett with the small hands aren't necessarily looking the greatest in training camp, but at the end of the day, Deontay Johnson made it work with Big Ben, who looked atrocious last year. So I think he's going to be just fine. I think people are sleeping on Mr. Deontay Johnson. After him, we see Breece Hall, David Montgomery, DJ Moore, Lamar Jackson, Josh Jacobs, George Kittle, DK Metcalf, Jalen Waddle, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson, Mike Williams, and J.K. Mr. Just Kidding Dobbins. So we're back up on the board here. We got 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. This is a 3 wide receiver league, but my draft strategy wouldn't really change if this was a 2 wide receiver league either. Because I think in the situation with how this draft has fallen, we want to be starting 3 wide receivers at all times and 1 in the flex. Obviously, you have to start 3, but I'm talking about this was a 2 wide receiver league. I think you're going to want 3 receivers in at all times based upon the running backs we are going to end up having because we're just going to fade away from them right now. So Cortland Sutton's getting a lot of buzz out of camp. Cortland Sutton's my pick here. I've talked a lot about Cortland Sutton this offseason. He's one of my favorite picks. He's going to rise up the draft boards very quickly. I think he's going to end up being probably a fourth round pick by the time all things are said and done. And we are in late August, early September when people are doing their draft. So after Cortland Sutton, we see CD Lamb. Oh, that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, actually. I apologize to the audio listeners. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, followed by Elijah Mitchell, Brandon Cooks, Hollywood Brown, Mr. Joe Shiesty, A.J. Dillon, Amon Ra, St. Brown, and Dalton Schultz. I like Schultz a ton, especially at this discount. There was a whole round where no tight ends went. So in the 6th round, I'm definitely a big fan of Dalton Schultz. But after Schultz, like I like Knox. I like Ertz. I like Freiermuth. I like Hawkinson. I like all these guys. But do I like them enough to take them in the 6th round? No. So I'm just staying away from that. And again, quarterback, we did see all the main ones go that I like besides Murray and Hurts. I think it's perfectly acceptable to take a quarterback in this range. And in a lot of drafts, I actually would do that. But we've taken quarterback around the 5th, 6th round of all these draft strategy videos. So I kind of want to show you guys what it looks like if you don't do that. And let's see what the team ends up looking like that way. In a lot of fantasy drafts, though, quarterbacks get hammered, especially if you are playing with people that are maybe newer to fantasy football or don't watch fantasy football videos like in early August like you do. They don't got that edge. So they're taking quarterbacks really early, which I think is a big mistake. So right now, Michael Thomas, I'm just back in on him. He looks great in practice. If Michael Thomas ends up being a swing and a miss in the 6th round, the risk was worth it because this is a guy that could be a top 5 receiver or the number 1 receiver in fantasy football. I like Adam Thielen, but I don't think Adam Thielen's going to be the number 1 receiver, right? I think he could be a top 12 receiver, but number 1, no. Same thing with Darnell Mooney. I like Mooney. I like London. I like Mr. Juju Smith-Schuster. I like Bateman. But do I think they have the same upside as Michael Thomas? No, I really don't. So Michael Thomas to me is a pretty clear pick in the 6th round. I think Kenneth Walker might be the dumbest pick I've seen this draft thus far, following Michael Thomas. So after Michael Thomas, like I said, Kenneth Walker, Miles Sanders, Damian Harris, Mr. Corvette, Juju Smith-Schuster, Darnell, here comes the Mooney, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Adam Thielen, Drake London, Kareem Hunt, Gabe Davis, TJ Hawkinson, Jalen Hurts, Cordero Patterson, Kareem Hunt. Just if you guys are watching this today, which is the 7th. There was talks about him wanting to request a trade last night, and then he does request a trade, but the Browns, they're like, Dikembe, no, you're not fucking leaving. We ain't trading your ass. So seems like he's just going to be stuck in Cleveland. So we are back up on the board here. I like Russ. I like Brady. Again, I don't like them in the 7th round. I'd rather just wait. So we're either going running back or receiver here. There are some running backs that I like a decent amount. We do have our 3 receivers filled out as well as our flex. Looking at tight end, again, I like these guys, but I'm not over enamored with them to where I want to draft them here. So I think I'm going to end up going with a running back at this pick. For me, it's either Devin Singletary or Chase Edmonds. Tony Pollard is just a fucking handcuff to me. I don't know why he goes this high in drafts, but people are a little bit crazy. Yeah, Devin Singletary or Edmonds would be the pick here. I'm going to go with Edmonds for this video, but you could have went with Singletary or Penny. Any of those guys would be fine with me. I think Edmonds has a very clear role as the lead back in Miami. He's not going to be like the workhorse running back, right? Seeing like a crazy shit ton of touches like McCaffrey, but he is the number 1 guy there based on everything I've seen out of camp. And when the team was given the guys rest days, they gave Edmonds a rest day and Tyreek and like the main starters. So it kind of tells me where Edmonds sits in this offense that he was able to sit out that day. That's just something that I looked into. So after Edmonds, we see DeAndre Hopkins, followed by Garrett Wilson, Brandon Ayuk, Rashad Bateman, Dallas Goedert, Elijah Moore, Russell Wilson, and Tampa Bay, Tom Brady. So we're back up on the board here. I like Singletary. I like Bateman. And I honestly think here in this range, I really do like these receivers, but I think I'm just going to take one more running back and then just not worry about it until basically the end of the draft. And then we're just fine hammering in on quarterback, tight end, and wide receiver. So I like Singletary. I like Penny. It's really a pick your poison at this pick. I really like both of these players. So again, you can kind of just go either way. I'm going to go Penny for this draft because I think we took Singletary last time. I think Penny's the number 1 back in Seattle. And if he doesn't get hurt, I really think Walker is going to be a huge fucking bust in fantasy football. So after Penny, we see Tony Pollard, Treylon Burks, Devontae Smith, Tyler Lockett in my pocket, Devin Singletary, Chris Olave, Melvin Gordon, Christian Kirk, Robert Woods, Renfro, Dalton Knox, Zach Ertz, Matty Snapback, James Cook. If you draft Jalen Hurts in the 7th round, and then you draft Stafford in the 9th round, you are kicking your team directly in the cock. Do not do that. Fine drafting. If you want to draft 2 quarterbacks, that's not me. I don't do that. especially if I draft Jalen Hurts. But sure, you can draft the second quarterback. Just don't draft fucking Stafford like 2 rounds later. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. And then you're going to be stuck in a debacle every week trying to figure out which quarterback to start because you're like, oh, I like Hurts. Like, oh, I like Stafford, this matchup. And then you're just going to end up fucking yourself over. So that's just something I never do. And I never understand why people do that. So we're back up on the board here. We're definitely going receiver or tight end or quarterback here. Quarterback, I like Rodgers. I like Lance. I think there's kind of a fall off here after Rodgers and Lance. So I'm going to go with Lance. Again, I'm kind of all aboard the Lance bandwagon. I think Lance is going to be a complete and utter stud. And I think my face looked weird when I did that. So I'm not going to stud again. I'm never going to say that again. But yeah, I think he's going to do great things this year. I think the rushing upside's immense. And to me, in the 9th round, it's just worth the risk. Like if he sucks, it is what it is, right? You just cut his ass or cut someone else and then pick someone up. I mean, I'm fine with him, so I'm not going to draft a second quarterback. So after we go Trey Lance comes Ramondre Stevenson, Pat Fryermuth, Amari Rodgers, Alan Lazard, Chase Claypool, Russell Gage, Sky with 2 Wisemore, and Mike Licky on my Gasicki on. So we're back up on the board here. Either wide receiver or tight end. The tight ends were kind of in the dead zone range here. Not a dead zone, but where it's just like you take a guy. If he sucks, you cut him. If he's good, shouldn't be too surprising here. There's a lot of decent tight ends in this range. So back up on the board here, we have Cup, Johnson, Sutton, Thomas. So 3 safe guys in my book, 1 risk with Michael Thomas. I think I want to keep going with the high upside plays over the safe play. The safest play here is Tony. We know his role. He's just not super exciting to where I think he's going to be a top 10 receiver, but he's going to have a decent year. But I'd rather go with MVS, who could be the number 1 receiver in Kansas City. He could be the number 4 receiver in Kansas City, right? There's a lot of kind of things that could happen there. So MVS could be a complete and utter shit pick. You'll look back in January and you're like, why did I take MVS? We know he's not that good, but he has the speed. But you could also look back in January and be like, holy shit, I'm a genius for drafting MVS because he's the number one target for Mahomes besides Kelsey. So that's just how I look at things. So after MVS was Christian Watson. Then we see Michael Cotta, Derek Carr, Ronald Jones, Michael Gallup, Isaiah Spiller, Kadarius Tony, James Robinson, Damian Pierce, Tua Tagovailoa, Alexander Mattison, Jamal Williams, Tyler, yeah, Boyd, and Mr. You Like That, Kirk Cousins. So back up on the board here again. This tight end range just it doesn't get the blood flowing for me downstairs. So we're just going to keep going on wide receivers here. And the safe pick here is Jarvis Landry. I don't really see Jarvis Landry winning anyone in their league, but I also don't think Jarvis Landry is a bad player because, like, when these guys are on bye, you could just throw Landry in there. He's going to get you like 10, 12 points. And if he scores, he might get you 18. That's a crazy week for him. But otherwise, he's just going to be safe. Like, you kind of just know what he is. I, again, am more of an upside kind of guy. I hunt for upside late. So we're going to go with Kenny G Spot. They paid this guy the big bucks last year. He sucked complete and utter donkey cock. But I think this year could be a bounce back year for this whole Giants offense. So after Galladay comes Justin Fields, Marlon Mack, Cole Kmet, who I like, Hunter Henry, who I also like, Naheem Hines, Rashad White, Darrell Henderson, and Jarvis Landry. Before we can make our next pick, before we complete this draft, obviously, right? Because we still got tight end to pick and 3 bench spots. I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor of today's video, Underdog Fantasy, the best place to play fantasy football this summer. The Best Ball Mania 3 tournament has $10 million in total prize money. The Puppy 3 tournament, $5 entry, $1 million prize pool. The Best Ball Mania 3, $25 entry, $10 million prize pool. All you got to do is draft your team. That's it. You don't got to worry about doing the waivers on Tuesday, staying up all night like an asshole, doing the waivers. You don't got to worry about that. You don't got to worry about trades, getting those dumb trade offers. You don't have to even worry about editing your lineup because Underdog will automatically give you the best score at the end of each week of the season. Last year's Best Ball Mania champion drafted in June, so you don't have to wait till late August, early September to draft your teams like you typically do in redraft. Here, Best Ball on Underdog Fantasy, you can draft your team whenever and win. Click the link in the video description down below and use promo code Stokastic to get a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. And you will also be receiving our best ball and fantasy football draft kit for 100% free. That's a combined $170 value with a first time deposit of $100. Back on into the draft here. We only have 4 running backs, but if I'm being honest with you, I think we're fine to just continue to wait. We do definitely need to draft a tight end though. Like, I like Albert O, but we have seen years of Russell Wilson just not throw to the tight end, and that is getting me nervous on Albert O. And I've always known that, and I've always been skeptical of it. It's just that the offense is going to be so good that you can almost talk yourself into maybe Russell start throwing to the tight end more. I don't know. I'm just not completely sold on Albert O. So we're just gonna keep hammering receivers here. I like DJ Chark a lot. He's been impressing immensely in camp. The question is, when Jameson Williams come back, is that going to completely donkey kick DJ Chark out of the way? I'm not too sure. But Jameson Williams also is not going to be coming back till like November. So team's going to look a little bit different by November, right? Guys get hurt. You're adding people off the waiver wire. Some of these guys I draft are going to be complete and utter busts. So that's just how I look at things. After Chark comes Jahan Dotson, Albert O, Tyler Algier, JD McKissick, Rondale Moore, Jacoby Myers, Deshaun Watson, Irv Smith, Matt Ryan, Trevor Lawrence, Kenny Gainwell, Devontae Parker, Julio Jones, George Pickens. We're back up on the board here. Definitely going to just take our tight end here and just take a safe guy. Tyler Higbee. He's probably not going to win me my league, right? But he's probably not going to screw my team over every week in terms of points. And when the Rams have those big games, especially week 17 against the Chargers, like that's a game Higbee could really help you take your championship down. So we're going to go with one more running back and a wide receiver. If you want, you can take another tight end if you're not as sold on Higbee as I am. We're going to go receiver next, though. Alec Pierce. I like Alec Pierce a ton. It seems like Campbell's going to be the number 2 guy, but Pierce is a rookie. He could move more in with the team, and it seems like Pierce is going to be seeing a decent amount of starting volume early on in the season, and that's all you can ask for when it comes to a rookie. So especially with this offense that I really like in Indy, I'm really on board with this Colts offense. I really am with Matt Ryan there. So after Pierce comes David Njoku, Robbie Anderson, Brian Robinson, Noah Fant, Gus Edwards, Jamal Williams, Zamir White, Chuba Hubbard, Gerald Everett, Hayden Hurst, Zach Wilson, the MILF Hunter, Damian Williams, Deonta Foreman, Odell Beckham Jr. And we're going to go with one more running back here. Going to just go for upside here. And to be honest with you, there really isn't any running backs here. I'm going to go Sermon. There's a lot of positive reports about Sermon. Maybe Sermon's the number 2 there. If something funky happens to Mitchell, then maybe we get Trey Sermon season that everyone was hoping for last season. So to recap our draft here, first pick was Cooper Kupp, followed by Aaron Jones, James Conner, Deontay Johnson, Cortland Sutton, Michael Thomas, Chase Edmonds, Rashad Penny, Trey Lance, MVS, Kenny Galladay, DJ Chark, DJ Chark, Tyler Higbee, Alec Pierce, and Trey Sermon. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. Let me know down below what your approach is in a 12-team half PPR or full PPR league from the 8th overall spot. I'd love to hear that. I love you guys all so much. Make sure to check out Underdog Fantasy, promo code Stokastic. I love you guys all. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.